let's go over some of my paintings from March. What's up friends, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. This time we're gonna look at some recent paintings from March. I started the previous video, has gotten some good responses, and so I wanna make this like a regular thing. So maybe make it a bi-weekly video, so 2 per month. I think that's a good ratio. Let me know if this sounds good. And I'll just go over the paintings from the last maybe 2 weeks. Every time we do this kind of a video, a bird just landed on the windows blinds. Really cool. So anyway, let's get to it and take a look at some of my recent paintings. So let's get started. The first painting I want us to look at is actually one that I really like. I started this month, I had a really good start. With this one, it's an old church. I don't really remember where it is. I shared it in a couple of places because I was really pleased with the result. I have some nice granulations here on the walls and the shadows. I used a lot of ultramarine and sepia and burnt sienna for these. Some burnt sienna for the roof. What I like is that I did here is I actually covered the entire sky in French ultramarine, I believe, and then I went over this entire area and just made it yellow. The reason I made it yellow was because there were some strong highlights on the walls. It's early morning or maybe late morning or even evening, I'm not sure, but the light comes really strongly from that direction. And so you have strong highlights on the walls, contrasting with the roofs and the walls in the dark here. I did get some feedback that this tree was a bit in the way of the composition, but overall very nice composition, some wet action. I'm really pleased with this one. Next up, this is an interesting one. So I was watching a video, or listening to a video rather, in the background, and I was trying to paint based on a very foggy scene that I saw. I really didn't nail it here. I have no idea what I did here. I mean, it looks nice, you know, and it's very subjective. Some people may like it. I'm not pleased with it because I do compare it to the original, but it's really interesting to hear your opinions about these. By the way, all of these are for sale almost, unless I say otherwise. I'm not making money from selling paintings at the moment because I feel like there's a lot of new things I want to learn. So this is not my main source of income, but if any of these paintings interest you, let me know. I'll be happy to sell most of them, unless I say otherwise. So this is a beautiful village scene in the mountains. I'm really pleased with the way I approached this, the way I worked on it. There is one thing that bugs me a bit with this one. This shadow here, it's too green, and it was green because this is a grassy area and sort of these are strong highlights of light. You can see them here as well on the different steps on the mountain. But the thing is, this shadow could have been much more interesting if I added a bit of warmth, a bit of cool to it. There's another painting I sold about a month ago that actually had a lot of variation, and I was really struggling and thinking about what made that specific drawing attract so many people, because a lot of people were interested in it. Not necessarily to buy it, but just interested in the painting itself. And then I figured it out. The shadow was a nice mix of some very cool shades and some warm shades. So it's just a really good thing to have variety when possible. This entire painting is a bit too cool to me. I should have probably warmed this with maybe a bit of burnt sienna or some kind of a brown. So anyway, this is my critique for this one. Other than this, I think I did a really good job on this one. Okay, all of them are upside down, so let's just turn it around. This is interesting. It's a scene I revisited. I did a painting of it about like 3 or 4 months ago, and I just saw the picture again on my computer and felt like redoing it. I have to say that there was improvement compared to the previous one. I do think it lacks a bit of interest. I don't feel like there's like a strong interest, and I don't feel like I did a good job with just the fine details. The first steps I felt really confident with, but I don't know. I guess it's a nice painting, but nothing more than that. You can see some strong granulations here on the wall due to the, again, I love this sepia ultramarine, and I think I go a bit overboard with it. I should probably pay more attention to that. This is a nice one. I really like it. So there was this airplane launch pad, I guess you call it. And the thing is, what's interesting about this is that I got the impression pretty well, so you can recognize what you're looking at, but the colors are all over the place. I feel like I messed up a bit with the paint. It's like the pigments themselves. I should have chosen different paints for this one. I think I could have made the red much stronger, more powerful. Make the sky a little less cloudy and a little less rainy, because these airplanes can't really fly, can't really, you know, because of the bad conditions that weren't in the original picture, so I messed up. This one's a really nice one. So it's a windmill. I don't remember, I think it's in the Netherlands, I'm not sure though. Just a beautiful snowy scene, and I struggled so much with all of this area. I couldn't get it as dark as I wanted for starters, and also just all of the fine details here. It was a real challenge, and I have to tell you, I'm really proud of myself of the way I handled it, because when you zoom out a bit, you can tell what it is, you can really understand, and there's the strong yellow light again. I should have kept it a bit more pure. It got contaminated by the green, but really good impression, and the sharp shadows, just I think I did a really good job. The one thing, funny enough, that I would improve is the background. You can see that I did wet and wet, and then I went over it with another layer. So I think I should have just made a choice, either to make the first wet and wet that you can see here a little stronger, and then I don't really have to have that second layer, or do the second layer if I must, but just cover the entire initial wet and wet. So you know, could have done a better job with it, obviously, but I really like the center of focus here. So this is just when I practiced the secondary set, nothing interesting. This is a city landscape. I showed it in another video that I talked about getting back after a while. And I didn't feel like I'm really connecting with it, but it's just really subjective, so some people may like it. This one's just another practice session I did. I showed it in another video. This one as well, the Blue Jay, nice one. This one also, let me zoom out a bit. So that's a nice scene. I really tried keeping the pigments pure and saturated. I went a bit overboard with it, but I think the overall composition is very nice, and there's the feeling of depth and there's the feeling of warmth. So overall, I'm really pleased with this one. So these two paintings, I'm sure some of you have seen them, because I compared the two different methods of approaching watercolor. You have the more straight up, just paint the different values you see. And you have the more sort of, not conclusive, not sure how to describe it, but when you cover everything up and then you layer it, you glaze it, very organized, as opposed to this one that I just put all the paints inside, and you can see some gaps here. This is a bit more spontaneous. I did a better job with the paint here. This one's a little more reserved, but still I did a good job with it. Funny enough, the dock here, I really like this blurry line, sort of a lost and found edge. I really like this effect that here it's really sharp and then burp, it blurs together, and it was really a happy mistake or a happy accident. I didn't plan this. I think I did also a better job with the shadow here. Here it's a bit overworked, and the water really, just the blue pigment really came into the dock. And so funny enough, in the spontaneous one, I just had a bit of luck and I did a better job. This one, really nice. So when I started doing the value matching exercise that you can see here, I'll show you. I shared it also on my Instagram and Snapchat, and also in another forum for painting. When I started doing this, I really paid attention to the different colors I see. And the funny thing, let me just zoom in a bit. So the funny thing with this painting is that I got the colors pretty accurate, but all the rest kind of sucks. I mean, it has a really interesting character, but other than the colors that I got right, I think the impression of the trees could have been much more spontaneous. I just could have, you know, got them in much faster. And I did try, but I guess this is just something I need a little more practice on. But anyway, I like this. It has a bit of a character, and the colors work really well, in my opinion. The practice I did, just color matching. You start with one, then add more. I will make a separate video on this one because it's a really good exercise. Here we have the thumbnails from the thumbnail exercise video. So I think most of you, some of you at least, are familiar with these. This was the original order they came in. Just a really good, I really am pleased with this. I did a good job, I think, in most of them. This was a bit of an accident, but it turned out nice. The fog, the shadows here, very well contrasted. This mountain feels like there's a foreground and background. Really love these little thumbnails. Here we have just a failed attempt at a view. It was very foggy mountain with some flowers in the front. I don't know. I'm not really pleased with this. It's not clear what we're looking at. An example of what I think failure. You know, it's still subjective. So some people can look at it and say, wow, I really like it. I just won't understand them. So yeah, let's move on. A nice sort of meadow or valley with some trees, nothing special. I did these in the same day, so needless to say, I was a bit disappointed and discouraged that day, but still, I'm happy that I paint every day, and I think, like, really, even if it doesn't go your way, you know, screw it, just continue, because that's what I do. And when I get these few failures, or at least what I call failures, I just keep going. It's the only way, just paint. Next one is this one. I really like it, and I want to make a separate video about this scene because there's a lot of unique stuff here. There's a little bit of wet and wet because this area was blurry. There's the nice waves effect, strong contrast with the rocks here, just a really nice scene. The one thing that would enhance this instantly is, I think here the yellow got a bit contaminated again by the green. And what I would, or by the blue, and then turned it a bit into green. What I would do a little different with this one is I would just use burnt sienna, really light, a really light wash of burnt sienna. I won't use, I think I used new gamboge here and it got a little contaminated. I think for the next time I would just use the burnt sienna and it would look perfect, just like that. So I will make a separate tutorial about that one. This is a really nice one, so I looked for some interesting reference photos and I found this one. It's from Jerusalem here in Israel, and it's just a beautiful scene because there's really strong shadows coming from the right. Sorry, strong light coming from the right, thus creating shadows on the wall here. So I posted this again in a forum. I got some nice feedback. They said that it could be nice to put some people in here just to give the sort of sense of how large this scene is or how small, just to get the proportions. This shadow could have been a little less strong, just make it a little more blurry. I could have warmed this shadow again with the warming of shadows, have some variation, not just all blue. Okay, so this is one thing that I could do much better. It would balance out the entire scene, but I'm really pleased with this one, I have to say. Oh, this is a good one. With this one, I really took my time. It's I think one of the paintings that I really dedicated a lot of time to paint. I really put in a lot of work for the sketch, and those of you who follow me, especially on Snapchat, you've probably seen this. I just really went slowly and built it up really well organized, and I just love this one. The contrast here with the tree in the front and the trees in the back. I think something is missing here, and I can't say exactly what it is. I feel like the color scheme is a bit... maybe it could be more interesting, maybe a bit more variation, sort of a reddish variation on the trees here at the back could have helped this. But overall, I'm really pleased with the way this one turned out. And the last one is I made actually yesterday, but I still wanted to include it because it's a gift painting and it's not going to stay with me. So I did want to include it in this video now. This one, let me zoom out a bit. So I think I spent about 5 hours on this one. I woke up really early, started working on it around 7 a.m. and finished at around 11:30 or 12 in the afternoon, in the noon. And just goes to show you that when you put in the time, you can really get to some nice results. I will say that this is literally easier for me than landscape. So if you compare these two, like this one and this one was so much easier, even though it may look a little more complex, because I have some really good background in drawing. Like, I'm really good at drawing, so making the initial drawing was easier. Second, there's much less need to simplify things. There's no need to think about what goes in here. You just draw it as you see it and then paint it, and you can paint all the parts individually. Whereas when you work on a scene, you need to really think about it so that there aren't too many gaps. You need to fill in the background, add the foreground, really think things through, simplify, reduce the scene to its bare essentials. And with this one, it felt really straightforward for me. So it may look a little more complex, but it actually wasn't that difficult. It did take a lot of focus. And again, it's a gift. So for gifts, I just get into a different mindset because I know like the person who's going to get it, and it's really important for me. So I'm really trying to actually embrace that mentality, to just feel like everything I'm doing is a gift for the world or for whoever will buy the painting. So I'm really trying to get into this mindset. Also, what was really good about this one, it just reminded me how much I love drawing other things, not just landscapes. I really got into landscapes because I just found that I really am challenged by them. But I do like to do some mechanical stuff like vehicles, things of that nature, even people. Eventually, I hope to get back to. So anyway, this is the last painting I wanted to show you. Let's wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get like practical information from me critiquing my own drawings, things to take into consideration, because once you finish a painting and you see it fully, and even when you go back and revisit it after a while, I feel like you get much stronger insights as to what you could have done better, what you could improve. And this is it. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Snapchat, Instagram, and I will see you in another video really soon. Take care.